Chapter 1. The Shattering. The air crackled with electricity, mirroring the storm brewing within Ash. He stood opposite his rival, Gary Oak, in the final round of the Indigo Plateau Conference. The crowd roared, their cheers a deafening cacophony. Pikachu, his loyal companion, shimmered with energy, eager for the final showdown. Gary smirked, a smug glint in his eyes. "Ready to lose, Ketchum?" he taunted, sending out his Blastoise. "This is where your journey ends." Ash gritted his teeth. "Not a chance, Oak," he roared, sending out Pikachu. The battle raged. Pikachu's speed was a blur, dodging Blastoise's Hydro Pump with acrobatic grace. Thunderbolt after thunderbolt struck, but Blastoise's sturdy shell deflected most of the attacks. Frustration gnawed at Ash. He had trained tirelessly, pushing Pikachu and himself to their limits. Yet, it wasn't enough. Then, disaster struck. Blastoise unleashed a devastating Hydro Cannon. Pikachu, caught off guard, was thrown back with immense force, crashing into the arena wall. He skidded across the hard surface, the impact generating intense heat. He lay motionless, smoke curling from his fur. Dark clouds began to gather overhead, rain starting to fall as the stadium lights struggled to pierce the gloom. Ash's heart plummeted. "Pikachu, no!" Panic surged through him, a cold, suffocating fear. He rushed to Pikachu's side, his voice trembling. "Pikachu, wake up!" Pikachu stirred, whimpering, but he was clearly badly injured. His fur was matted and bruised, patches of it slightly singed. His eyes glazed over. Ash felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He had never seen Pikachu so hurt, so vulnerable. Images flashed before his eyes, the swarm of Spearow, their relentless attacks, Pikachu's small form struggling to survive, Ash feeling utterly helpless to protect him. It was as if his own heart had been ripped in two. He looked up at Gary, who watched with a chilling satisfaction. This couldn't be happening. He was so close to becoming the Pokemon Master, so close to proving himself. He had poured his heart and soul into this journey, into training Pikachu, into pushing himself to his limits. And now, a wave of rage, hot and blinding, washed over him. He had never felt so helpless, so utterly powerless. The fear of losing, of failure, had always been a distant threat, a shadow lurking on the periphery of his dreams. But now, it was real, tangible, and it had shattered his world. He looked at Pikachu, his gaze hardening. This weakness, this vulnerability, it would never happen again. He would never allow himself to be so easily broken. "Charizard!" Ash roared. Charizard erupted from his Pokeball, flames engulfing his body. He landed with a thunderous roar, his eyes burning with an eerie red light. Ash, fueled by a primal rage, barely registered the concerned whispers of the crowd. All he saw was Gary, and the image of his fallen Pikachu. "Charizard, use Dragon Claw," Ash commanded, his voice a chilling growl. Charizard obeyed, unleashing a devastating barrage of Dragon Claw attacks. Blastoise, overwhelmed, was sent flying back. Gary, pale with fear, scrambled to recall Blastoise. Charizard's relentless assault was a terrifying spectacle, the sheer power of each blow threatening to obliterate Blastoise. Driven by a desperate need to protect his strongest Pokemon, Gary sent out his remaining Pokemon, his Raichu and his Sandslash. He knew the rules, but desperation had taken hold. Charizard, however, paid no heed to the additional opponents. He unleashed a torrent of fire attacks, engulfing Raichu and Sandslash in a wall of flames. Both Pokemon were quickly incapacitated, their cries of pain echoing through the stunned silence of the crowd. The referee, aghast, declared Ash the winner by default. But Ash, consumed by his rage, remained fixated on Gary. He watched as Gary, his face pale and drawn, stared at the fallen Pokemon. Fear and despair etched on his features. A chilling smile spread across Ash's face. He gestured towards Charizard, who let out a low, menacing growl. Charizard advanced towards Gary, his flames flickering menacingly. Gary, terrified, stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror. He had never felt so helpless, so utterly powerless. He understood, with a chilling clarity, the fear and despair that had consumed Ash moments before. Ash watched with a grim satisfaction as Gary trembled, his victory tasting bitter. He had won, but at what cost? He had glimpsed the darkness within himself, a power that had almost consumed him, and he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that this was only the beginning.